Today, I'm going to show you how to install Stable Diffusion on a virtual machine with Paperspace. This is a giant pain in the ass, so it took me a while to figure this out, and I thought this would be a good way to show you how to do it. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is go to Paperspace. Come on. Ah, right. I have no internet connection. Is that it? Why? What is going on? Connected, no internet access. Do I have to? Well, I can't actually. This is so stupid, dude. All right. And guess what? That took 2 days to resolve. I tried filming the video on a Friday, and now it's Monday. So it took all weekend for the internet to come back. It kind of sucked, but really messed up a lot of my plans, but we are back, and I am going to show you how to set up Stable Diffusion on a virtual machine in the cloud. I personally think that's maybe the best way to do it because a lot of us do not have 8 or 10 gigabytes of VRAM. We don't have access to lots of GPUs, and we really just want a dedicated environment to help us build out really cool images. So it's also not very intuitive. There's a lot of videos on getting Stable Diffusion set up locally. If you want to do it locally, this should help. I'm basically just going to set up a Microsoft Windows VM, and then I'm going to get all the things that we need and get started. So first thing you want to do is create a new virtual machine. I'm using Paperspace. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just really like their interface. You can choose a bunch of GPUs here. I like to do the P4000. The other thing I am going to do is set mine to West Coast because I am on the West Coast. If you're on the East Coast, obviously do it in New York, and if you're in Europe, they have an option for that as well. Pretty decent size. I'll probably do 100 gigabytes, and the total is about 50 cents an hour, which I think is pretty good. Like, you really would only play around with something like this for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 hours. And what is that? That's like $2. And you could probably generate a lot of images via that way. Other thing that we can do is we can do name our machine. I'll name it YouTube Diffusion. I would set an auto shutdown because sometimes if you forget to shut it down, then it runs like a couple days and then you have to pay a lot of money. So bada bing, bada boom, there we go. Let's create the machine. This can take some time. So I am just gonna cut back to when it's ready. Okay, I see it's switched to on initializing. I'm just gonna go see if it's done and then we can get into it. We can. Okay, so just click on open desktop and it should load in basically a virtual streaming desktop, which I think is pretty cool. Perfect. Now that we're here, let's go ahead, open up the internet. And the first thing you're going to want to do is go to Python. Okay, we do not want the most current version of Python. So go to Windows and scroll down until you see version 3.10.6 is what we're looking for. 10.8, 10.7, 10.5. This is 10.6, it looks like. So we want the 64-bit installer. Excellent. So be sure to get Python versions 3.10.6. I've read maybe, 0.7 will work or whatever, but definitely do not get 11 or 12 because that did not work for me. So get 10.6. Okay, next thing we'll need is Git Download this bad boy. Excellent. Let's show in folder. Now, here's another weird thing about Paperspace. You do not want to double click. You want to right click, run as administrator. Yes, sir. We do want to make changes. We need to add Python to our 3.10 to path. Be sure you click add to path. It's extremely important. Click install and wait for Python to get installed on the machine. Very cool. Setup was successful. I just like to click close and do the same thing for Git. Run as administrator. Yes, sir. We want to make changes. It's going to open up an installer. Just hit next through everything. Just make your way. You don't have to click any of this. Just keep hitting next and wait for this to install. Cool. I'm just going to unclick release notes because I don't want to see that, but we're finished there. Next thing to do is go to your desktop, right click, new folder. Let's call this bad boy Diffusion. Go back to Google Chrome and let's look up Automatic1111. We want the web UI. It's going to bring you to the GitHub page. GitHub page has a lot of information on it, but just scroll on down to where you see install notes, installation and running, installation on Windows 10, 11. Yes. Okay, so we've installed Git. So now the next thing we need to do is download the stable diffusion repository, for example, by running Git. Cool. So how do we do this? Go to your folder, click up here. Sorry. Click inside the folder we just made, click in here, CMD. Should open up a pathway into our diffusion. We want to grab this Git link here, copy it, open up our terminal, paste it, git clone, and then the link to the Git repository, hit enter. This should not take long at all. And there you go, bada bing, bada boom. Go back to this folder and you see you now have the Stable Diffusion Web UI. Click into here, and this is everything from that repository and that GitHub now cloned onto the machine. There's a few more steps that we need to take before we can start up the actual web UI. You want to go down here to web UI user, and I'm just going to expand this out a little bit because this is fairly important. Where it says window batch file, we're going to open up a notepad. We're going to grab the web user and we're just going to click and drag onto the notepad. This is what the web user looks like, where it says here command line args equals x formers and auto launch. What this is going to do is this is going to make your web UI a little bit more efficient, and this is just going to help launch the web UI. Save. We can now exit. Now let's explore some of these folders up here. I'm assuming you're pretty well familiar with how all of this works, but you do need to get a Stable Diffusion checkpoint. And what you're going to do is put the checkpoint in here in Models, Stable Diffusion, and you're going to put all your checkpoints in here. The repo has made it very easy for what each of these is supposed to do. Put your checkpoints in Stable Diffusion, put your VAEs in there. You put your embeddings here, your textual inversion embeddings there. You can put your extensions here, right? So there's a lot of things out there on the internet that you can configure your web UI to do, and these folders help you do that. So the more you learn about extensions and textual inversions, that's where this will come in handy, and the VAEs and the LoRa's and all that good stuff. Okay, great. So we do need a model or we do need a checkpoint, I should say, because as you can see, this is empty. There's lots of checkpoints. I think one of the more common places to find checkpoints is Civit AI. And you can see if we click on models here, there's lots of these models. Be careful though. I want to be somewhat careful because there's frankly, there's a lot of pornography on this site. So just be careful scrolling through. I'll be careful scrolling through here. You as well. Sometimes they're blurred out, but sometimes the images are pretty suggestive. So just be careful on that. You'll want to grab basically a checkpoint. One of the best things you can do is just take this filter, go to all time, click on this filter, hit checkpoints, and this will sort the checkpoints by highest rated of all time of this site. So you can see there's Ghost Mix here. That's been very highly rated. There's Rev animated here. You can get this Dream Shaper, this one here. You can kind of just scroll through and see what kind of style you're into. I'm gonna just say, let's go with this Ghost Mix here. And I wonder if it'll let me yeah, and then you just download it. This might take a bit because this is 2.24 gigabytes, and that's quite a lot. Fantastic. We can go back to this here. I just want to open in a new window. You can see our Ghost Mix, safe tensors. Let's just put this guy in there. Excellent. Now if we go back to our main page here, we can double click on the web UI user. Make sure you're clicking on the Windows batch file. Now let's fingers crossed that everything goes according to plan. If you've made any mistakes, this is where we will find out. So it might take a while to boot at first, but just sit tight. It should get it done. Come on, this is looking good. If my experience, if you can get to this PyTorch download, you're doing good. Because typically if it doesn't work, it means that you've either got the wrong version of Python, and so it can't build the wheels for PyTorch, and it can't install PyTorch. So that's like sort of the biggest issue. So as long as you've got Python, the correct version, and the Python is on your path, then you should be good. Everything else like Git and getting it from GitHub and opening the folder, there's pretty wide margin for error, but not with Python. If you get that wrong, it can be really difficult to fix. And in many instances, I would just delete the machine and requisition another virtual machine and just start all over again. So you do need to give it some time to download PyTorch. This only needs to happen once. And then the second time you open up the web UI, it'll be a lot faster because this part's over. So just bear with me while it downloads all the things that it needs. All right, it's launching. It's launching. It's happening. We just got to choose which one we want. I'm going to choose Google. And this is the web UI. So you can see we write in our prompt here. This is a negative prompt. We're going to do generation. You can learn more about these online and what they're used for. You put your, you can see here if you want to use a LoRa, you can add it to this. Just need to create another folder in models called LoRa. We have our checkpoint here. So let's try to generate something. What should we generate? How about a robot day trading stocks on Wall Street, making tons of money? That's probably not a great prompt, but let's just see what happens. Whoa, there we go. And we've generated an image. This isn't the best, but I'm sure with a little bit more tweaking, you could add best quality, you could add in some negative prompts here. What's nice about the Civit AI is, let's say you go back here and you filter on embeddings. You can get these easy negatives and add it to that embeddings folder. That will help make your images look a little bit better, especially if you're doing that kind of anime style. But there's tons of them, right? There's loads of embeddings that you can choose from to help do your thing. So yeah, I actually think this is kind of cool. And you can make like batch sizes. So if we did like 3 or 4, and let's say um, who's the concept artist? Star Wars. What was his name again? Ralph McQuarrie. That's it. Ralph McQuarrie, let's say in the style of Ralph McQuarrie. Let's see what it generates. Now I've put up the batch size to 4. That means it will create 4 different images in this one batch. Nice. Nice. These are kind of cool. Yeah, and just so you know, this desktop image here was created by Stable Diffusion, and this was the first Stable Diffusion model that came out. Back then, there was no automatic AI or automatic 11111. You just had to use like a Colab notebook, and yeah, this was like one of the first AI generated images I ever made, way, way, way back when it first came out. Things have come along so far that it's been really nice to get back into it. And in fact, let's see if we can. So I think my prompt was robots building concrete city in the style of Ralph McQuarrie. I think that was the prompt I used to build my wallpaper here. So let's see what it generates. Whoa, all right. I was not expecting that from the previews of it buffering. This looks pretty cool. This is way more detailed than what I got. Oh man, yeah, this is actually pretty sweet. I love this. Cool. Yeah, so you can see it's come a long way. This probably isn't the same prompt, but this has definitely come a super long way. This is still pretty cool looking, but you can see here that these images are just way more detailed, way more on point with just um, basic prompt here. And you can play around with these settings. Some people like the CFG scale to be up a little bit higher. Some people say to bring it down a little bit lower. -1 seed just means that it's random each time. If you set this seed again, it's easier to replicate the same image. There's lots of different types. You can upload an image here and then use that image to create another one. These are for like merging different checkpoints, training your own embedding, or creating your own hypernetwork, things like this. This is where you can put on your extensions, all that good stuff too. One last thing I want to mention, and this is, I think, really important, is if we go to our PC, we can see I procured 100 gigabytes of storage, but in just getting the checkpoint, getting all the requirements we need for Python, Git, PyTorch, all of the things we need to make this run, you're sitting at about 67 gigabytes of 99. So for my case, that's fine. But I will say, like, if you want to get into videos or to forums where you're going to be creating 32 to 34 images for 1 second, that's 32 frames a second or 34 frames a second, you're going to use up that space really quick, like really quick. So just keep that in mind. You might want to get more than 100 gigabytes. It'll cost you a couple more pennies, but it might be worth it depending on how much images you want to be saved and ready to go on your machine here. Otherwise, you can just connect to a Google Drive and throw all your images there and just keep it sub 100 gigabytes. All right, that does it. I hope you guys found this useful. I will see you in the next one. Later.